Hello and welcome to Tech Town. Season 3, Episode 10.
Wow, double digits.
That's right, we talk all things tech. You are here with Mr. Ellsberg, and I'm sitting next to our local town wizard.
Local town wizard.
That's right, we're at Tech Town where we talk about everything that has to do with technology. This week, we are talking about hover window.
Windows.
Windows.
I didn't know they had their hand signal.
The windows.
They should adopted
to the wall.
and they should adopt that as their sign. Yeah, that's true. It's windows. So windows and doors and ceilings, any kind of building stuff you want to talk about.
No, we're talking about Windows, the said company Windows.
Correct. Microsoft operating system.
Microsoft.
Yeah, but that's funny because a lot of people probably don't think twice about it. It's like Windows. What is Windows? Some people use it. You probably have more of an emotional reaction to Windows than actually
Windows 95.
Okay, I was going to ask you, what's your favorite version of Windows? Maybe that is even the only one you use.
I would say XP.
Okay. Good
Windows
choice.
XP, because it came at the same time that I was going to college.
Ooh.
And so it was like a big step up to like all of a sudden like technology was like, wow, I can really start getting into a browser. And that was right when the internet started to really become accessible to me.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see when the different things line up with your life.
And it was pretty, it was blue and green.
Oh yeah.
You know, I like that part.
No, they did a pretty good job. Windows XP has actually gone down in history as one of the ones where it's kind of, they got it right. Microsoft got it right.
Right.
There's a funny little, I don't know if you call it conspiracy, but that every other version of Windows is good, and then every other version is bad. So we'll go through these and we'll kind of see. And I'll give you, here's the other thing. Here
are you a conspirator?
Medium.
Okay.
Medium. And what you'll get here on Tech Town is not only the facts, you'll get the real deal, the real talk. I'm going to give you the lowdown on the good and the bad of Windows, because a lot of people will only talk one or the other. You get both here.
Well, yeah. Well, how do you know anything about Microsoft anyways?
Turns out I basically ran that.
What?
More or less.
I did talking with Mr. Bill Gates, Mr. Paul Allen.
More or less. I worked for them, so that gives me something. So I didn't even work on Windows, but I talked to people that did work on Windows.
Right.
So here, I just know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
You're a wizard. I mean,
that's true. I have the title.
Yeah, clinically approved.
Yes.
Wizard.
All right.
Notary is stamped to you.
Yeah. Well, I need my
wizard.
stamp. All right. So here's the thing about operating systems. We're gonna talk about Windows today. I think this is gonna be the first in our series of talks about different operating systems. But we're gonna talk about the versions of Windows and what is the most important thing with a new version of Windows, an update, something new.
What's the most important thing?
Yeah. What do you think?
What's the most important thing about a new one?
Yeah.
I would say its relation to the old one. How easy it is for someone to like grasp it, you know? Because they how much?
That's actually like one of the last things.
Oh man.
No, they change that all the time. Try again.
Maybe how easy it is for developers to make stuff for it.
Ooh, that's a thoughtful one, but no.
What about the amount of money they put into marketing it?
Wow. Oh, that's scary. I don't want to think think about it. No, not that. Not that.
Okay, man, I give up.
Security.
Security.
Security. It's always security.
Yeah. We're getting security early this episode.
Yeah, it's always just there. It's sitting there. It's just whether I want to bring it up early or not. Okay, so when you get these newer things, really one important thing is that they're getting more secure.
Okay.
Let me just give you a quick highlight of some of the security features that happened, but eventually they actually added in some security.
Whoa.
Like they didn't really used to have it because they didn't really need it. It was this new computer thing. It's like, who's going to do bad things?
Right.
Well, it turns out everybody. And so once you actually connect it to the internet, then security starts getting crazy. So nowadays, when you get a new version of these things, the first thing you should think is probably better with security than the last one.
Cool.
Okay.
So, boom.
Yeah. Now we're going to get on some more of the exciting stuff. But the way we're going to do it, I'm going to give you a little visual history of Windows. So maybe you are alive to see, you in the audience were alive to see these sorts of things yourself. Maybe you just hear about them from us old fogies. But back in the day, this is Bill Gates selling Microsoft Windows. This is so this is a good page that talks about the history of Windows. And this is Steve Ballmer with Microsoft Windows 1.0. He's describing all the cool features. You can see what it looks like.
Right.
I actually don't remember this version of Windows.
What?
I don't think most people do that are maybe our age, because really this was pretty under the radar for the average person until you got to Windows 3.1. Okay, where's 3.1? Here we go. Or 3.0, but 3.1 came out very soon.
Nice. Yeah, okay. Now, this is the first one that I remember. Yes. I remember those icons.
Exactly. So what Windows 3.1 featured was a couple new good things. Like you mentioned, the icons, it had 16 colors.
MS-DOS. I used to write so many papers on MS-DOS.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was even previous to Windows. Yeah. So we can do that as a bonus episode.
Boom.
So what it had was Windows. That was what was different about this. Before these things, it was basically just typing text, like you said, DOS, you know, it's just text. This had these windows. You could move them around. You could minimize them. And it had a Minesweeper, a visual like game built in, which was awesome. And I have all the records. So yeah, Windows 3.1 was pretty solid. And a couple things that it brought as a new advancement to the previous versions was, like you saw, the advanced graphics. At the time they were. It was faster. So when Windows 1 came out, it was like, you know, really slow. Windows 3.1 or 3.0, whatever, got faster. Right. And that became a theme with all these things. Is the operating system going to get faster or slower with the new version?
So this was a good one.
This was a good one, exactly. So far, we're doing pretty good.
Right.
It had like apps, I guess you call them, programs, they called them back in the day, called Program Manager, which could manage other programs. File Manager, you could like look at your files. That was exciting. Print Manager, you could print things from your Windows. It had the big floppy disks back in the day that ran off of, and it had games, you know, Solitaire and Minesweeper.
I remember the huge disks that were really thin and really flimsy.
It's funny because they call those floppy disks, I think they called the next ones floppy disks.
But
the next ones were hard, so I don't know why they did that. Come on.
Floppy disk 2.0, hard disk.
Yeah, that's probably the official title.
Not floppy anymore.
No, not floppy disks. Okay, so Windows 3.1, doing great. Next came Windows 95. Windows 95 was a pretty big change as well. It went from kind of older looking 3.1 to fairly newer looking. I wouldn't, you know, now as we look back on it, it looks still kind of old, but fairly newer looking graphics. And most of them did update their graphics pretty heavily on each one. So check it out. This is what it looks like. Nope, that's 3.5. That was okay. Windows 95.
Here we go.
And notice the big change, the start menu.
The start menu was where it's at.
So the start menu came out. So now that has actually been pretty big.
I mean, I used to have Diablo, right?
Yes, good.
Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah, newer games were now pop.
MS-DOS.
It's still got MS-DOS. That's consistent throughout all these things. Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, that was a pretty big one. And it also was the biggest one by number of sales. It was like in the millions of sales now. And things were getting big for the company. But one big thing that it brought was built-in internet support. So you could hook up a modems like you were talking about, you know, with your online games. Things were just getting online. That was super early, so it wasn't most things. But at least the operating system, Windows, knew how to sort of help you do it. It had a little icon that could pop up. One way that this all happened was because of plug-and-play, they called it. Plug-and-play, meaning you could plug in anything and it would work. Like previously, you plug in stuff, and then you'd have to either do crazy stuff or solder it yourself or install crazy custom software.
It was like the first time you had like an audio jack or something that you could put in your computer.
And especially like a printer. If you could plug in a printer and it would work, or a mouse and keyboard, these kinds of things were getting better.
We were talking about serious autonomy.
Oh yeah,
right now.
Basically, artificial intelligence taking over.
Wow.
Windows 95. It had a CD-ROM drive was now kind of the main way that you did things there with CD-ROM. So we moved even past the non-floppy disks to CD-ROM. So that was pretty solid. So Windows 95, doing pretty good. So I don't know if we had a bad version really yet. Windows 95 could be called a little bit rough, but really I think it was good. The one that kind of got the bad rap was Windows 98. Windows 98 had a lot of blue screens of death.
Right.
Now, if you hadn't heard of blue screens of death, you really haven't used Windows, because Windows was famous for every once in a while totally dying completely.
Right.
And putting up this blue screen that text just said weird characters and didn't make any sense, like dead, we're dead.
Yeah, yep, dead.
Then you'd have to restart, and hopefully it would work. But so Windows 98 had some blue screen problems. It brought some more to the table, but also it wasn't that much of a change.
Right.
I don't know if you remember Windows 98.
Barely. You know, I remember blue screens of death.
Okay, well, they got a bad rap for that. But yeah. Okay, so Windows 95, pretty good. Windows 98, okay. Windows XP.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's your favorite. Yeah.
Yep, that was one. That was a big one.
Yeah, that was pretty much a little bit update on the graphics and things, but really just a faster and stable and now more secure operating system. It actually took a little while to get some of the important internet security. So they had these service packs. They call them Service Pack 1, Service Pack 2. You'd get them installed. But the point is, it had security updates coming from online.
Right.
Previously, you would buy a box that said Windows. You would put it in, and it would just be like Windows, and that's it. And if something happened, it was a security problem. They couldn't fix it unless you bought the new version or something.
Right.
Now they could have Windows Update, which connected to the internet and said, ooh, are there any new updates available?
And that was big time. Getting those little like pop-up, like, would you like to update? I remember them.
And do you remember them fondly? No, everybody hates them. That's the thing. It's tough because you're Microsoft and you're like, okay, we're finally going to be able to make things more secure and make them more secure every month, when we update them. And what do you get? Everybody complaining.
Yeah.
I don't like, what is this? And people not knowing how to do it and all that. So, and actually they did a pretty bad job because a lot of times it would like fail to install the update. So they had a little bit of struggle with that, but I want to call it overall good because Windows XP lasted for years. People are still using it around the world in really important, like probably even the nuclear, reactors are running on Windows XP. And they most likely are. Yep. So it was fast, it was stable. With these sort of updates, it got a firewall, which was the first time that built into Windows, not everybody from the internet could hack you. Like before it was just wide open. It was like, oh, you're connected to the internet? We'll do whatever you want. Sure, let me attack all your ports.
That's why I got hacked all the time when I was playing Diablo.
Probably true. Or maybe you were just terrible.
Also probably true. Yeah, but at least I can get my firewall up and going.
Yeah, well, you probably had a good firewall on Diablo.
Oh yeah, next level. All those books I was reading.
All right, so getting some security updates. Windows Explorer, I don't know if anybody knows it by that name, but basically when you just like look at your files and your folders on the computer, that sort of stuff, that got a big makeover. It looked a little nicer. So Windows XP was kind of the rock solid, rock steady machine.
That was a good one. Yeah,
it was a good one.
And a lot of times you can even like revert almost to a like Windows XP skin.
Yeah,
because people like it so much.
It's true. People can make it look like that if they want. So yeah, go try that out. All right. So after Windows XP, and by the way, there are releases in between all these.
Right.
So
these are just the big ones.
These are kind of the big ones, right? Then came Windows Vista. Now, Windows Vista is now looked back upon as a failure. If you look around what the press said and what people said, they hated it. It wasn't that bad. It was fine. There were a couple reasons that it did turn out to be pretty bad. But let's talk about the good things first.
Okay.
Number one, as always, security. This one now brought in user account control or user access control, I think, whatever they call it. What that meant is instead of when you're using your computer, it always has the ability to delete every file, to install any program, to do whatever they want.
Right.
Instead of always being in that mode, now with Windows Vista, you are running in a specific mode that can only do a certain amount. You could only save files to your directory, and you could only do a couple things. You couldn't like install new programs. And then when you wanted to install new programs, you'd have to like enter the master password. Right. So that prevented anybody, not just on your computer like right next to you, but anybody over the internet from accessing stuff using the admin mode where they could do whatever they want versus just your user mode. Right. Now, that is actually really good and really important that you need in security, but it caused these pop-ups. And that's really what people hate. It's like, oh, it's popping up. Do you want to install something? It's like, wow, it's always asking me if I want to install something. So in a way, it was good because it was asking you for your permission so that at other times it couldn't just do whatever it wanted. Right. But lo and behold, pop-ups.
And that's what people remember.
That's what people remember.
Is the pop-up part. Even though it's actually giving you the autonomy to make these big-time choices.
Exactly. And not get hacked. Another thing it had that is now, I think, like one of my favorite features of Windows is the search.
Right.
Integrated search. So just Mac has this with Spotlight. Other things have this. Everywhere has this now. It's just one overall search. And so instead of finding the right file and folder, you have to like click through this folder. Oh, I thought it was in this folder. You don't remember where it was. No, now you just type the name of what you want, and it shows up. Boom. That was huge.
Yeah.
BitLocker was whole drive encryption. We'll talk about that another time on hard drives. Basically encrypting your hard drive, which that was great.
Yeah, that's good.
Windows Media Center. Nobody ever talks about that, but that was a whole basically like a TiVo for your computer.
Ooh.
Before TiVo ever existed, but they didn't do it perfectly, and nobody ever talked about it. And didn't get TV, so that hurt them.
That's a pretty big one.
Yeah. They had Aero was their new way of doing the user interface, so it kind of looked shinier and kind of see-through, which actually was really cool. But with all this, it was a little slower. It kind of had to do a lot for the graphics. People were building computers that were just good enough, but late. So it was like barely just working on the old set of computers. The new ones were just sort of working. It was the wrong time. So like a year later, everything was fine.
Right. Being able to sync up those two things, I think is, we haven't talked about it yet, but having the computers that run the software come out at the same time is so important.
Yeah, it's funny because when things don't run, you want to throw that blame.
Right.
And a lot of it could be timing.
Yep.
So just wait. It'll work.
That's right.
One thing specifically is some of the audio stuff didn't work anymore. If you had like a sound card you plugged in or something you plugged in that did some audio stuff, but that's because they redid things in a good way that was actually better for all future versions of Windows. So anyway, bottom line is this one is seen as a failure.
Right.
It had its downsides. It also came out at the same time as not coincidentally, as the Apple ads about get a Mac, because Mac versus PC and all this.
Right.
And that get a Mac, you got to get a Mac. And so that was a good time to start pushing it in Microsoft's face.
Right. So good timing, Apple.
Exactly. It's a lot about timing. Microsoft hasn't figured that one out. All right, so then you got, okay, what's next? Windows 7. Windows 7 basically just kind of fixed all the things about Windows Vista, and it was after all the dust had settled, so people were kind of like, they had their new stuff, everything was kind of working, it was good. So that was basically just solid. I would say Windows 7, like kind of Windows XP, has been this rock solid one that's just being used for everything everywhere.
Right.
The people who didn't quite upgrade to the latest are staying on that.
Right.
It had a couple features like a touchscreen enabled. It wasn't necessarily for tablets and phones. That wasn't the time for that yet, really. Microsoft was trying for that, but people weren't adopting it. So it was more for like specialty ones who had a desktop that had a special touchscreen, maybe like a monitor.
Right.
It had like gadgets, which were these things that were on your desktop that were like little apps. So if you got like a clock,
a little clock,
or weather, right? Kind of hogged your computer up a little bit, so nobody really used it. But it was like an app store basically before there was an app store.
Generally a good idea.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, and we have this very similar on Android phones.
Right.
So if you have widgets, they call them on Android phones, but basically same idea.
Yep.
And so Windows 7, other good security features, did a good job. Okay, Windows 8. Now, Windows 8,
again.
I thought Windows 8 was great, and then I realized why everybody else didn't think it was great is because we have to take about Windows 8 is the stuff that they put into Windows 8, and then you hide that, and then you use the other stuff, and then it's great.
Okay.
So in Windows 8, they added this whole new screen. Let's take a look. This is, it's really for tablets. It was the time for tablets and touch screens and phones and newer, smaller things. So they decided they were going to go, oh, and by the way, yeah, so there's Windows 98. That's what that looks like. Windows ME, that was a little in-between edition. Then you've got Windows Vista. Check it out. Ooh, pretty. Windows 7. And you can notice the changing of the start menu every time.
Yeah.
Windows 8. Okay, so you see how the start menu is nowhere to be found.
Right.
Everything looks totally different.
Yeah, where am I?
So on a tablet, if you didn't know anything about Windows, this is kind of nice. Because the other version of Windows is weird. It's like weird little icons and files and folders. No, this looks like, I have some apps or calendar or whatever. There's an app store.
Right, yeah, it's a lot bigger.
Exactly. I can see these things. I can swipe to do different things.
Yep.
So as far as a tablet user who's never used Windows, this might be a pretty good one. In fact, it actually was even tough because there were certain things you had to know how to do without it telling you, like swipe from the left side of the screen, swipe from the right side of the screen, top or bottom, the settings. So it was hard to even like figure out how to turn it off because you had to know how to swipe somewhere.
Right.
So they struggled with that. I think that was a big mistake because it just was too jarring, especially for people with a mouse and a keyboard who looked at this and said, what do I do? I just want to go back to my normal desktop.
Exactly.
So they had a way where you could get back to the normal desktop, but really Windows 8.1 started addressing that. So Windows 8.1, that said, okay, we're going to make it a little bit less prominent for that weird new stuff, and then we're going to keep all the good stuff for the other one. So they have this App Store, which Windows never had.
Right.
The Task Manager. I don't know if you ever use Task Manager on Windows, but it's where you can see if a program's like frozen, where you can kind of go in and say end task,
not
responding, right?
Yeah.
They beefed it up and did a lot of good things in Task Manager. So you can see how much of your computer is being used, how much internet traffic's going by, what's starting up with the computer. So Windows 8 did a good job of that, but it's hard to find that because you're seeing all this other crazy stuff. So really, Windows 8 and Windows 8.1, good things, under the hood, pretty good things, but okay, rough job with that new user interface.
Right.
And that brings us now to Windows 10. Windows 10.
Windows 10 on the 10th episode of this season of Tech Town.
Beautiful.
Coincidence? I think not.
So,
so they just skipped over Windows 9.
Kind of funny, right? So yeah, there's a lot of reasons behind it. I think they wanted to unite the Windows Phone thing. They wanted to say we're all kind of one. They did Xbox One, but you couldn't do Windows 1 because they already did Windows 1. I think they also thought it was kind of cute and clever to skip number 9 so people would talk about it. So whatever the reason, Windows 10.
Windows 10. Next one they're coming out with, Windows 9.
Who knows? Maybe so. Maybe so. We're gonna speculate about that at the end. So for Windows 10, it basically, I think, is kind of the best of all worlds. It pretty much brought together the stability and kind of rock solidness that we got with like XP and Windows 7. It's sort of pretty much that rock steady. And it uses some of these new fancy looking things, but just with some class.
Okay.
It doesn't take over the whole screen. It's just kind of in the middle.
Nice.
And then if you're on a mouse and keyboard, it basically is in the background. You don't think about that stuff.
Right.
You just kind of use it like a normal Windows, and it's kind of nice.
But you can go and navigate to it if you want.
But you can.
Yeah.
Now, if you unplug that and you're on a touch screen, it knows it.
Right.
And it makes that stuff more prominent.
That's nice.
So that was a very nice choice, right? So whatever mode you're in, it'll change.
That's cool.
And that really is going to be coming together because Windows 10 is going to be the same across all devices.
Nice.
So right now they have Windows Phone, but Windows Phone is actually using a different operating system. It looks similar, but it's actually different code. But it'll all be the same. Xbox, it's going to all be the same. So what they're doing is they're making it catered to every device.
Cool.
But thought about in the same frame of mind, which I think is finally what they needed to do because they were trying forever.
Right.
They have things like, in Windows 10, they have things like Cortana, which is the voice assistant, like Siri, who can like search for things, make appointments for you, and all that kind of stuff. It's very connected to the internet. And we'll talk about the good version of this for a second, and then the down. Very connected to the internet. So it's easier to integrate with OneDrive. It's their cloud file storage thing.
Which is what we use here. We use OneNote.
There's OneNote as well.
On OneDrive.
Right, exactly. And then they have a new browser, Microsoft Edge. So if you heard of Internet Explorer, and that has its own history, they've pushed that to the side, and now they've got Microsoft Edge. So it's going to be a new browser like Chrome or Firefox. It's going to be sweet. It's going to be a good browser.
Have you jumped off the Edge?
I have.
Yeah.
I don't use it as my regular browser yet.
Right.
But we'll talk about that in a future deal. But and then so you're connected to the internet. The big concern with Windows 10 is about privacy. There are a lot of options that by default are set to on that report a lot to Microsoft. Some of it anonymous, some of it not. And a lot of times we don't know now in the world what happens with our data.
Right.
So it's not like I don't trust Microsoft. I kind of just don't trust other people maybe hacking into them or the government or what will happen. So there is a good amount of little settings to turn off. So get into those privacy settings, say advanced settings or customized settings. Get into the one, not just the basic thing where it fills it out for you. And basically turn all these off. Right. Because otherwise it's going to maybe be reporting a little bit too much to Microsoft that you don't need.
Right. And, that's we've talked about that when it comes to data, that's got to be your own.
Yeah. You got to own it, you control it, know where it's going.
And in this case, it's too bad that you have to go through and change the default settings, but you can do it.
You can,
which is nice.
So this roller coaster of Windows, I think it all needs a little more appreciation and credit than people give it, because each one of these did bring a lot to the table. Right. You kind of look back and it's like, well, there's some people talk bad about this, but now we have security. Now we have really cool user interfaces that work really well and look pretty. Things that are making appointments for you. It's pretty cool.
Right. And so constantly changing landscape.
Right?
Be ready for it.
So the question is, what will Windows 11, or what is even the next thing, or is there a next Windows? So
Windows A.
Getting letters on you?
Letters.
Wow. Well, they already did XP, I guess. So here's the Town Wizard prediction.
Yeah.
Here's the official Town Wizard prediction. The next version of Windows won't really be a big next version of Windows. That's my prediction. Now they have their update cycle so locked in with the internet and just updating that you're not, and it was free to upgrade this last time. I think it's going to continue. It's going to, especially because of security, just everybody upgrades. It's like just an update, you install it and everybody gets it, and it'll maybe look different.
And then where do your files go?
But yeah, you can never find them again. No, but I think it won't, there won't be really the big Windows 11. It'll be kind of Windows 10 plus, or maybe they'll call it Windows 11. But it's going to be a lot more incremental upgrades and sort of not making it this big deal.
Right.
And it's not going to probably even be costing any money.
Boom.
Boom.
So there you've heard it. We went through each one of the Windows updates. Well, almost all of them.
Almost all. Yeah, plenty of them.
Yeah, with the exception of some of the smaller ones. And so now you can know exactly what Windows you want to jump into.
Yeah, I wonder if you choose your favorite out of all the things we mentioned, which one is it?
It's gonna be 95.
Yeah, 95. 3.1. That had sweet Minesweeper. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Glad you some Windows.
And that's right. And we will see you next time here on Tech Town.
Tech Town.